How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.
No, honor is absolutely on this side. The father-son thing and getting to do that in succession, within short notice like that. It's cool. I don't know if we've ever gotten in I don't know, 800 episodes. I don't know that we've ever gotten to do that. So that's pretty unique in and of itself, man. I'm really glad you're here.
Yeah, and I'm glad you got to talk to Max earlier. He when he got off the call with you guys, he was fired up. Like he said, it was a really great conversation. He loved it. It was so much, he does these interviews and stuff, but
Sure.
he said that's not even, this was so much better, so much more enjoyable for him to do. So he had
Oh,
a lot of great feedback.
how cool, man. What an amazing young man. And I know you know this, but it doesn't matter. From one dad to another, well done. Just an amazing, amazing young man. And I know
I,
it's not all you. I get it.
yeah.
And also, I know there is an element of you in there too. So well done, sir. Awesome young man.
Well, thank you. I do believe that when you meet somebody and you meet their kids, it's kind of like, as they say in the Bitcoin world, proof of work. You know
Man,
what I mean? You're walking around with evidence.
that's it. You know what? So I love that, and I love that we're starting here too, because we're gonna dive into you. We've got some of our men and our young men will come in for some questions too, just like we did with Maxim. But I love that you just said that too. It's a really interesting full circle. Um, we so I'm gonna start here, and I'm gonna come back to what you just said about meeting people's kids. So one of the things I told Maxim was the stars were aligning where this old farmer that used to own the farm we live on now had sent me a video and he said, "Hey, I don't know a ton about the businesses that you build, the campuses you build, the programs you build, but I saw this gentleman here and he reminded me very much what he was talking about reminds me very much of what I hear you say all the time. I think you would really like him." And he had sent me a video of you
Hmm.
speaking to another gentleman who I don't know who that gentleman was, but it was another show of some sort. And I said, "Awesome. From what I see, I really like this guy." And then I looked and I made the connection and I went, "Wait a second. This is the same Matt Smith." And I said, "We actually have Maxim coming in. Like this is super, it's kind of interesting, like timing, right?" And then
Yeah.
right after that, I get a message from my friend Craig Ballantyne.
Yeah. Well, Craig's I love him. He's like, I've known him for a long time.
That's so awesome. And I want to ask you about that too. So I get this message from Craig that says, "Hey, you've got to meet Matt if you don't know Matt." And I'm like, "Dude, the stars aligned." Again, somebody else just sent me his stuff. We had the pleasure of speaking with Maxim, and Craig is a dear friend. And I bring this back around, there was a guy who paid for a number of uh there was about 8 or 9 of us men that this gentleman paid for all of us to bring our families to Mexico, where Craig lives. All of us knew Craig prior to this as well. And he brought us down there to work on an event together. Craig came in and spoke to us and hung out with us a little bit, but we were all working on this event. And the gentleman said, "The reason I wanted your families to come is because then I could really get to know who you are, because I could see you with your family. I could see how they react to you, and they're not going to fake it for an entire week, right?
No
We're
way.
gonna get to we're gonna get to know if you're the real deal or not, right?" And Craig was a part of that too. So yeah, just all very full circle, man. How did you meet Craig?
I met Craig actually in it would have been 2008, and it was a mastermind actually because I was at the time I'd moved to Argentina,
Okay.
and I was so and like Maxim was 2 years old, or yeah, I guess 3 years old, just barely. And I didn't really, I was a successful entrepreneur, but I didn't know anybody.
Hmm.
I'd like, so, I'm from Iowa, so I had my business in Iowa that I sold before I went to Argentina. And, I was like really financially successful, but I literally felt like I knew no one in the world. And outside of, this, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And this somebody I followed online was like having this mastermind group where there's a bunch of different entrepreneurs. And I said, well, maybe I should just try something like that just to go and see,
Yeah.
and, I'd never done anything like that before and haven't since. But Craig was, one of the few people there that I really immediately like connected with. And I mean, honestly, I didn't get much out of the mastermind sessions at all. Like none of it
Sure.
was, but the people I met there were like Craig. And Craig and
Yeah.
I we've traveled all over the world together now, and yeah, no, I love him. I totally support everything he does in any way I can because he's
How
a good
cool, man.
man. I mean, he's a good
How
man.
he is a good human being. Really, really is. And I love watching him grow into the dad part of
Yeah,
that
me
too.
too.
You
Me
know?
too. I mean, he brought Michelle, we were living in Colorado at the time, brought her out so we could meet her before they got married. And
Yeah.
we were on a long walk around Red Rocks with her, and we're talking about kids and having kids, and she was like ready to go. And
So
it's
cool.
like, I like Craig, I think you found the perfect situation. I know you've been
So cool, man. So
behind the
cool.
ball.
Oh, I love that. I love seeing the worlds collide like that. I think I met him. I think initially, I think I met him through Bedros, maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
that makes sense.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, they've been working together for a long time, so that might have been it. But so cool, man. So I love to see it. And again, obviously, very big fan of what you do. I want to dive into. I really want to dive into the preparation a little bit, if you're okay with that.
sure. Yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
Love to talk about that, man. So, you guys, some of you guys I know were on the call when Maxim joined us, and we were walking through his journey, with the preparation and what he was doing to earn a real education. And we always differentiate, Socrates says the beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms. And so we always differentiate schooling and education.
Two
And
different things.
very much so. And it's an interesting conversation with so many, I get to speak to parents and teachers and professors and on a daily basis and have for years now at this point. It's very interesting when you see somebody go, yes. And then you see others that are like, right? And you've got this kind of like religious belief in almost one side or the other. That's always an interesting thing. Before we even dive into the core premise of the book, what was your educational experience? Why? How? Why do you see it? What I think is relatively clear, but you have to see through the cultural religiosity,
Yeah.
right? What did that look like for you, especially growing up? What part of Iowa?
Davenport. So right on the Illinois-Iowa border area.
Yeah. Okay.
Quad Cities is there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I've always had a great time in Iowa. But yeah, how did you see that?
Well, I mean, I like everyone just kind of went the way that went with the flow. And so
Okay.
because I talk about this a little bit in the book, I qualified in whatever they refer to as the gifted program when I was early on in school, and then they kind of separate you into a different group within the
Right.
school system. And then so everyone I knew was going to college.
Right.
So I assumed, okay, I mean, I literally didn't think about it. I just said, well, they're going to college. I guess that's what I have to do. And but we were poor, so we didn't have any resources. So to do that, I had to join the Army National Guard. So I went to just basic training and the advanced training. So it's like 4 months, and then I entered college a semester behind everyone else. And then I had my 2 weeks a month, or 2 weeks a year, weekend a month, that kind of thing,
Right.
commitment with the Army. But honestly, after 18 months in college, I dropped out. I just withdrew, and I said this isn't for me. Mostly because I for the first time I was starting to think for myself. I think because I was no longer. I think maybe if I'd started school at the exact same time as all my peers had, I might not have even noticed it as much.
Mm.
But coming from where I was coming, where I had like the 4 intense months of training, and then I start college and I realize, what are you guys even doing here all day? Like, I mean, well, I've been busted my ass for the last 4 months. I know what it means to like work hard,
Yes.
constantly because it was just the training, and the training's intense. And I saw that people were just hanging out and getting drunk and being fools. And not to say I haven't been a fool in my life, I definitely have, but I didn't make sense to me. It was like seemed like such a waste of time, and I didn't have anything in common with these. Weren't my I wasn't with my group anymore. I was alone. I felt like there, and so I dropped out. I dropped out. And I did all kinds of, you know,
That's
weird things as an entrepreneur, basically to get myself going and established, and but I was very focused on just survival. I mean, what do I have to do to make some money? And so the first thing I did was I did this college painting franchise business, basically. It's called College Pro Painters.
Oh, I know it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good for me. So it really
Yeah.
was good for me. I learned a lot doing it, and yeah, eventually I mean, I did well enough there that they actually invested in me to start a business in the dot-com era, which was totally unrelated, totally separate. But their parent company was this publicly traded company in Canada, and so they put in I put in all I had, which wasn't much, and they put in about $1 million into it, and it did blow up in the dot-com boom. I mean, I lost everything I had. They lost their $1 million. And it was a good learning lesson though, but I ended up back at home sleeping on my mom's sofa, trying to figure out what to do, and and ended up working for somebody I used to work for me actually to get my
Interesting.
bearings again. But anyway, long story short, I ended up doing lots of entrepreneurial things over time. I realized that I didn't think college was right for me when I was there,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't
That's
believe formal education is the path. I just
that's it's an interesting so it's a point that I think I love when points are made that you hear it and it's not a revelation, it's almost more like a oh yeah, like it kind of it's almost a reminder. And so one of the things you said there is it's almost like because of the friendships and how that that shifted because of the time coming in behind them, because that wasn't so closely tied. You didn't have the relationships that are so closely tied with a lot of these chunks in our life where we're going through schooling. You were almost able to see more clearly kind of the delayed adulthood of it all.
yeah, exactly
You
right.
know?
That's
And
exactly what it
so
was. Yeah.
that really is, and that's an interesting thing, and it makes sense. I talk again, talking to parents all the time. Or talking, it's like but they're friends. But this social thing. But right, and it's really that we're so tied to that. Everybody else they know and they've been friends with is doing that, and they'll feel weird if they get pulled out of it. You
Yeah.
know,
And
and that's
there's a big problem with that too because it's you can get lucky and your kids end up with a fantastic peer group
sure.
that actually does that's super motivated and really challenging to them. And like I talked to Brett McKay the other day on his
Yeah,
podcast, Art of Manliness, and he was
yeah,
telling me that his son is very lucky that his son is like in this really solid group of young men that are like on the right track and doing the right things, and so they're a positive influence on him, not a negative influence.
right.
But that's kind of a luck of the draw thing,
Yes, sir.
naturally, and
Yes, sir.
you have to realize that what the old expression, you are the average of the five closest
Right.
people around you. I mean, it's so true, and choosing those people consciously is really critical and makes all the difference.
That does
What,
it, the intentionality on that makes all the difference in the world. It makes all the difference in the world, and we get to pick that. And it's not sheltering, and especially when we do that for our young men, it's not sheltering. That's called parenting. We're supposed to do
yeah,
that. Not
it's
supposed
called
to,
parenting.
right? It's not. We're not
Yeah.
supposed to leave it up to chance. I don't believe that's the design, by any stretch. I'm interested on. I mean, I'm interested on the post. Okay, now I'm sleeping on mom's couch, and so, but I don't want to. I feel like I'll get sidetracked on that too much. I want to make sure we're hitting um, some of this book too, and give some of the outline for these guys to be able to come in for some questions. The core premise, if you guys didn't weren't here when we were talking to Maxim, or if you guys haven't heard the episode with that yet, you frame the book as a father's effort to really prepare his son to become competent, confident, and dangerous.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
love it.
I will say I was trying to give him all the information I thought he needed at
Yeah,
this stage.
yeah,
But he needs to know so much more later. But like
of
at that
course.
time, what's the thing? Yeah.
So and I like those words too. What were the why those words?
Well, they all relate to one another. I
Yeah.
mean, they are in a way I could see it's very hard for one of them to exist without the other two.
Hmm.
And they also it's designed to appeal to a young man. I mean, a young man wants to be well,
Those
they
three.
want to be confident and they know what it means to feign confidence. You
Yeah.
know, they've
Yeah.
all been in position for it and they know that that's not it, but they want
Yeah.
that the real thing, the genuine thing. And that only really comes through competency.
Yeah.
When you become good at anything, even just one thing, it could be playing a musical instrument, it could be, being really good at cross country. I mean, it could really be anything, but you establish real competence in it, it becomes this beachhead that you can sort of like build something on. Your confidence can come from that and can spring off in other areas. the dangerous part is that there's nothing more. Everyone wants to be physically dangerous and at least able to take care of themselves, protect themselves and the people they
Sure,
love. But so that, of course, is necessary. It's a necessary
sure.
reality, to feel confident in your ability physically. But really, the most dangerous thing is as a man who knows who he is,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
thinks for himself. So
yeah.
I think that's really what we're going after more than anything else.
I figured as much, and I wanted to try to lob that up to see it because that's it, right? I'm all about the fit. Like I love. I grew up in combat sports. I still engage in combat sports. I enjoy it. There's a piece that I get there now. I love it. I loved hearing Maxim talking about going to Thailand, and I'm like, cool, man. Where are you going? Like, what's the gym you're going to? Like, that's fantastic. But I figured it was, what you said is so true. The intellectual, being intellectually dangerous, being emotionally dangerous in that way. Um, knowing who you are. It's it is a
And that's
danger.
a hard one for young men,
Yes,
because it takes
sir.
like, and yeah, that's a real hard one. We have an exercise in there that starts to get them to start to think about it, by creating a personal code. But
Yeah,
the truth is, it comes with time.
that's
It
right.
comes with time and
That's right.
discipline of yourself. But
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're saying the be is the most. I'm sure Max might have talked to you about this be, do, have
Yes, sir.
principle. Yeah.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, everyone is motivated by haves. We
That's right.
all, I mean, you can't help it.
Yeah.
You're motivated by haves. Especially in a consumer culture where it is a lot about haves.
Mm.
You're motivated by those things, but what people don't understand is that those are just a byproduct of doing it.
Bottom. That's right. And you
So
do. And what you're doing is the byproduct of who you are.
exactly, exactly, and this it becomes a
Right.
self-reinforcing virtuous cycle.
Correct. That's it. And so the focus on who you are, one of the things that I love that you said in there, is, we're asking the wrong questions when we say, like, what is the job that you want, right? Because it goes directly to what you're just talking about right there. And I've forever, my plight has been quit asking kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? I hate
Yeah,
that question. Who do you want to be? Who are you now? What is the value? Like, who are you now? And who do you want to be? Those are the valuable questions, right? Who are
they
you
are.
now? And who is the man you want to be? And that's the gap worth identifying. That's the thing to lean into because everything else ends
Exactly.
up being a byproduct of that.
I think this starts off in the right way when kids are really little. It's kind of a playful thing, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And
Sure.
they imagine like
Right.
Spider-Man, or a fireman. But what
Right.
they're identifying these things is they're identifying actual virtues that they see in these characters.
Yes,
They
sir.
are, they are, you are. So it starts off as an honest and healthy question for the kid, but the adults do not adjust that over time. We keep it
Right.
still, and the question becomes more serious as they get older. It's like, down to ultimately who are you gonna work for to be able to pay
Yeah,
your own rent,
that's right.
which is the dumbest question ever.
That's right.
Um,
And
but
is
it
it a
starts
good
off
enough
right.
and is it a good enough answer that I can be proud of it when I tell my friends because
Oh,
I hold
that's
specifics at it, right? And there's that extra layer of like, so I can prove to everybody else that I did a good job raising you.
Yeah, you're a lawyer, so now I know I've done a good job,
Oh,
that
I
kind of thing, which was actually the opposite sign, frankly. If your children are lawyers, it's probably a bad sign.
So, yes, sir. Yeah, right there with you. I love that, man. And that, you're talking about the virtues and they're identifying those virtues. One of the exercises that we have, and we worked with Todd Herman when we built out kind of our own version of the men's version and our own version of the young men's version of, really this preparation. Worked with Todd Herman on a lot on identity and identifying people who hold these virtues that align with you, that inspire you, because there is that, you speak about the mimetic desire, right? And especially for young men, like they don't always know what they want, so they do imitate others, right? And so in your experience, like talk about that getting young men to discern between because I think men a lot of times need this too, discerning between what they genuinely want and what culture has told them to want.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think this power is so strong that unless you consciously consciously devote a lot of energy to really understanding what you really want,
Yeah.
you're going to want what people around you want. Wherever you, like if you live in the suburbs of Chicago, like my sister does, I can tell you exactly what she wants because, and I guarantee it's because of the environment she's in. If I
Mhm.
put her for, if she lived on our ranch here in Uruguay for 3 months, what she would want would be totally different
Yes, sir.
automatically because the environment is going to create different, she's going to be surrounded by different desires of people. So
Correct.
it happens naturally. You can't avoid it. What you can do is be conscious of it, that these things are, these forces are, I mean, humans look to other humans to figure out what they want. This is just how it works.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it just naturally is going to occur. But you can, once you really know who you are, I think that ultimately comes way less powerful on you. You've decided these things are not important to me, these things are, becomes easier. But still, even then, I think you have to be really conscious about who you're spending time with and what media you're consuming,
Correct.
because the media is shaping your mind. This is why advertising works the way it does, because
That's right. That's right.
you're driving down the highway and you're not, you see a McDonald's sign, and then by the seventh one, you're thinking, maybe why don't we stop and get some McDonald's? You weren't even hungry before that, but it really
Totally.
does. Yeah, they tell you what to think, and you think
They
it.
tell you what to think. Yeah. It's so I remember you said that, and I immediately went back to my I guess it's a cousin of mine, but she was um I got married when I was 28. And so she was the flower girl at our wedding. So at the time, she was only like 7, I think.
Mm.
So big age gap, but just cousin of mine. And she'd come out and we were driving somewhere and we drove by a McDonald's. And she's a little in the back and I hear her just go, ba da ba ba ba, right? Or whatever the McDonald's thing
Exactly.
is. Or like, what like she just had, like it just automatically came out. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, I'm so hungry. Can we go here? And it's like, man, it's so like this Pavlovian response, that we have, and we talk about it in terms like this, but the reality is it's so much bigger. It really is so much deeper. We don't realize sometimes how much our environment has shaped us, which again goes back to that need for intentionality. Um,
Yep.
and the intentionality in which you developed the cycles too. I really appreciate, and you got cowboy and pilot and fighter and so on, right? So choosing these cycles versus a fixed curriculum, right? What was the kind of the deeper lesson behind the structure of that?
Yeah.
What thought process on that?
Well, the truth is that we probably could have, if I had to pick another 16 that would be just as good.
Sure.
But the idea, the most important thing from my perspective was that to give them a theme that would, at least with a couple of them, for whoever you are, it's going to like tickle your thirst for adventure, to
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because young men, all men must have a hero's journey. Now,
Yeah.
that hero's journey may actually take you far longer to get than it ought to get if you're just going with the flow in life. But it must be had. It must be
Yep.
had, or you'll never feel whole. So you're going to get it, I mean, you need to get it. And so that zest, that interest that men crave is we're just trying to leverage that, trying to point it in a useful direction.
How did you see that play? I love the way you said that. And I've again, I think that's one of those things where you just said it, and I was like, yeah, I agree. Like, you must have it. You're not going to feel whole unless you have it. I believe that I've got a piece that is, again, a byproduct of creating, or at least attempting to create some of the things that I want to create in this world. And there's a piece that comes through that. I'm running around with my hair on fire sometimes, like a bat out of hell, with all the things we have to do around it. But there is a piece because of that hero's journey fulfillment, and I don't think I had that piece until I thought, okay, I'm putting everything into something that I really want to build. So I love the way
Yeah,
you said that there. You guys created this, it was almost across 3 generations. And I don't know Mr. Doug Casey personally, but knowing the three of you, this is going across 3 generations, Maxim and yourself and Doug. Did that intergenerational collaboration reveal anything about that hero's journey and maybe how like men prepare differently across time or generations, or is it pretty much, look, this is all it repeatable for all three of us. It just takes time.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the one thing is Doug doesn't have any children, and so there was a um, so he came at it from a different perspective, but he's
Yeah,
he's always been, and he's well known among certain circles. He's super famous among a very niche crowd.
sure,
Um, but he's known as like a economist or
sure.
an investor. But he's really a philosopher, actually, if you really know him, as I know him, and he's kind of like my adopted father in a way. He really is.
Yeah.
I mean, um, but um, he's always been really, really interested in like the possibilities of what one could turn themselves into. And he really is as I opened the book with, is the handwritten part was, he really is like that Dos Equis guy, most interesting man in the world. I mean, he's 79 now, so it's hard to understand it, but this man has done everything you can imagine in the wildest places under the most absurd circumstances. He's had bizarre and wonderful experiences. I mean, he's really, really pushed himself, to the limits.
When he talks about those kinds of things, what is without sounding woo-woo about it, like what is the energy that comes out of that? Meaning, like, does he talk about those things and he's the boisterous guy that's got a story for every occasion, or is it more just like again, is there a peace that comes out of having experienced all those things and more of like a fond reflection versus I've got to tell you the story and give you another story and then, you know what I mean?
It's much more of the fond reflection.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of the guy who'd be more like, if you get in a conversation with him, he's more likely to be, like I said, Doug is a legend in certain spaces. I've been with people who he's like, they look up to him so much, and he's sitting with them at dinner and they just talk the whole time and never bother to ask Doug a question. And Doug just sits there, patiently listens, and is very courteous. And I'm
yeah,
like, dude, you just blew it. You had a chance to ask
yeah,
this guy any
yeah,
question you wanted, and he talked about some nonsense that, about
yeah,
yourself. Like, it's
yeah,
crazy. So, but yeah, he's a pretty understated.
yeah.
So yeah, it wouldn't come off as
I-
lots of stories.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured, and I respect that more and more. And I don't know if some of it is my age. I look back even at myself a number of years ago and go, "Ah, that guy's annoying." And I hope that's some element of maturity. And now I just find myself annoyed with myself on a micro scale on a daily basis versus macro looking back. But I'd like to think that there's maturity coming out of that, and I imagine.
What age roughly did you think that changed when you felt like you pivoted to the point of being, when
That
were you the most annoying? What age were you the most annoying?
that's a really good question. It's a really interesting question. I don't think I was a very annoying young man. I was driven, but I was very quiet. I was very introspective. Um, and I I think because I started hitting some sort of success and was speaking from the stage, and I was the most annoying in my 30s,
Mm,
personally. I think I was most annoying in my 30s, and I think I've started to decrease the annoyance in the 40s, and I've learned to transfer the passion that I have for exactly what we're talking about right now into something that I don't feel the need to convince everybody of anymore, because
yeah,
that
that's
is
so cool.
annoying to me too, because I looked at other people doing that and I realized I'm really working to try to convince so many people of the same thing, and that in of itself is annoying too. So really my 30s, personally, I think I was the most
Mm.
annoying.
Yeah, I think I was the worst at, I think peak idiot for me was 25, probably
Yeah.
that. Because I believed I knew everything.
Uh,
So no
totally.
matter what someone told me about, like, I know, I know,
Yeah.
I know, I know. I
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah.
anything. So that was the peak of my, every
Yeah.
year after that, I've realized that I know less,
Yes, sir. It
but
really is. That cliche is so true. If you pay attention, I really do believe that ends up being a thing where every year you just go, man, I am so much further. But it's also not a debilitating thought. It brings back that sense of wonder that you are born with, I think, where
yeah, I
it's
think
like,
so too.
it's like, that's cool that I don't know everything. That's actually pretty
Yeah,
neat.
when you're younger, you feel like, oh, if I don't know,
Right.
then that's somehow a bad reflection on me. And when you get older, you realize, no, I don't know. That's an opportunity,
Yes,
you
sir.
know? And
Yes,
I don't
sir.
have the burden of pretending I know things that I
Yes,
don't
sir.
understand.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. So well said. You mentioned, and guys, so one of the things Mr. Smith mentioned was people being with Mr. Doug Casey and blowing the opportunity. I want to make sure we honor the opportunity that you have here now too. So any of you guys, men, young men, if you think of something, you have some questions, and I do want to encourage you to be selfish with the questions. Like ask what you're hearing and gain insight. You have a brilliant human being that's here doing amazing work. So please take the opportunity to get the hands up. I've got one question that I want to ask based on the Doug Casey thing, and I'm going to start bringing you guys in as well. You mentioned Doug and you mentioned the economics, and I love that you said he's really a philosopher over everything else. I think I look at that as a great compliment. Um, there is a chapter, talking about economics and sound money. Um, Financial competence, it's something we culturally will talk about somewhat, although we don't train it well. It is something we talk about, but we don't often tie it as central to manhood too. And I really liked that that is a central theme there. That look, again, part of this dangerous thing, being financially dangerous too, right? There's an element of that. Did you come into that through Doug's work? Did you come into that through your own, happenstance and this early partnership and the dot-com and busts and like how did you kind of come upon that? Because that's something guys will talk, I need more money and I want to be, financially free, financially independent. And they'll say the things that everybody says, but diving into the opportunities around that from investment side to okay, how do you put things into various trust systems and cash flow, like what are the options really? We don't train that well. Where did that impetus come
Yeah.
from for you?
I mean, I grew up very poor, so I had an internal motivation to always make sure, and it sounds absurd, but to always make sure I had access to food. I know it sounds
Sure,
crazy, but we were
sure.
very poor. So that was my primary, that was what drove me to
Yeah,
work so hard. And then I woke up one day and I was rich. I mean, I built businesses, but I knew nothing about economics. I knew nothing about money, really. But I had built, some really successful businesses. And when I came, it wasn't, certainly it was Doug that, just reading his work early on, way before I met him, that started to open my mind and change the way I thought about things. And I mean, I probably would have called Doug a mentor even if I never met him,
yeah,
because he had such a big effect on the way I thought, the way I
yeah.
understood the world around me. And so yeah, I think economics is super important, and I think the way that we tried to frame economics, though, is that really it's a study of humans interacting with humans more than it is about money. And the way to win in the economics game or in finance in general is basically to be virtuous. Now, this
Yeah.
is weird to say this when there are lots of bad people who have made enormous sums of money, by basically playing this zero sum game,
Yes, sir.
especially in finance, and made huge amounts of money. Certainly, they have won. If it's just counting money. But the surest path, absolutely, to becoming wealthy and financially secure is absolutely just by following virtuous behavior.
Yes,
One of the basic terms in economics is, talk about this thing called time preference. And this is a technical term. They say if you have a high time preference, essentially having the thing now is really important to you, whether because of your desires or because literally you're going to starve to death if you don't have it now. Um, a time preference basically is willing to sacrifice the future if necessary to have what this thing now, whatever it is you want. And again, it's built into humans to have that, or we'd starve to death. Like
Mhm.
we can't worry about next year's crop if we're going to be dead before then, right?
That's right.
So it makes sense. But the way you get wealthy, the way you actually accumulate resources, is having a low time preference on
Yeah.
all the things beyond necessities and saying the future is more important than today. And the opposite of that is really detrimental, and that gets into debt. That's the
That's
exact
right.
opposite. Yeah,
Such an interesting thing to train. Is that mental side of that? Yeah. I mean, look, talking about a marshmallow, the Stanford marshmallow test,
yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
What it was, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, phenomenal. I'm gonna start bringing some of these guys in. I have a couple
great.
more questions to, but I want to get some of these gentlemen in here. Mr. Walsh.
Oh, mute. Thank you. Mr. Smith, thank you for your time. Is that okay to call you Mr. Smith?
You can call me whatever you want.
Okay. Um, real quick, do you have other books that you've written?
I've never written another book, no. And actually, when Doug has been trying to convince me to write this book for 12 years, 12 years. And it wasn't until I had a real need with Max and I could see his situation that I really wanted to do it. But before that, I said, Doug, who has written a lot of books, always told me, in addition to trying to get me to write this one, he would say that writing a book is a lot of brain damage and there's no money in books. He would tell me that, and then he'd say, "Hey, let's write this book." So no, it wasn't until there was a real need.
I kind of have an idea for a book and we can shelf that for later. My question is how, and again, I failed the assignment. I haven't read your book, but I've read what it's about and everything. So I'm very excited to read it. But
So
how did you find the path, for this book, like to write it?
It was, as we kind of discussed a little bit earlier, I had to frame it very personally because I mean I did the vast majority of the writing for it. Doug contributed like important parts in the ideas. He wrote a couple of very important chapters. Max had some wrote a few chapters that are very important too, based upon his perspective. But I did the majority of it, and I found it very difficult to do, very hard to do, because I was trying to first write a book that would come from three people. So I was trying to not talk in the I voice really, and not really. So I had to think about it only in terms of Maxim, my son. What does he need to know? What, like, if I'm not here, what would I want him to have? What information do I think he needs in order right now in order to become the man he ought to be, the man he could be? And so thinking about that one person made it a lot easier. I mean, before that, it literally couldn't come out of me. I was the writing I did all got thrown away before that, all got
Mhm.
thrown away. It was no
mhm.
good.
Think about the power
Okay.
of that. Like, think about the power of that, Brian, too. Like, if we look at it and go, and again, they've described Doug as kind of the Dos Equis guy, right? Like the world's most interesting man. But think about the power of that as we sit back, and it's very similar to some of the things we do, especially like month one of like, hey, who is the ideal version of ourselves, right? We're trying to paint this, the Plato's concept of the forms. Like, what is the ideal version of me? And he's taken, and that's a thing that we can start to play with. But I think when you reframe it in terms of now I have a son, and Brian, you have sons. And so it's like, who does that ideal version that we want him to be? What are the cycles? What are the things he needs to know? When does he need to know them by? I think that's such a powerful perspective. And for a good man, I think that drives the thought around that in a more powerful way than if we just frame it as ourselves, because we'll always excuse ourselves from greatness. We will always find a way to alleviate ourselves from stepping into something because we go, yeah, but this part doesn't apply to me because, excuse, excuse, excuse. We'll do it less for our sons. So I love the framework on that.
And also leaving a legacy is important as well.
Of course. I mean, those are the best you're raising, you're the best version of your legacy right there. Yeah,
It's the one that matters when it comes down
that's
to it,
right.
to me,
That's right.
at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Beautiful. Mr.
Thanks,
Shaw.
Brian.
Um, I was curious, how do you like feel, I mean, do you really think that the going to college is like broken? I wasn't able to read your book, but I did read the description and read about it. Do you think that college is broken? Like that, like is it
Yeah,
a good idea to still go to college?
well, I'll say it depends. If you want to go into certain professions, like if you want to go into a profession that's a highly regulated industry, like if you want to be a doctor, obviously you're going to have to go through this process. Those credentials really matter. Most people do not specialize, or if you're going to do some of the STEM work, like if you want to go into chemistry or engineering, I mean, you're going to need lab work. You're going to need the equipment that they have available there for the learning. to happen. But the vast majority of people who go to college do not pick those things. I mean, it's something like 53% of all people who go to college today are enrolled as business administration.
Right.
That's their major. Like, this is basically nothing. I have to tell you. I mean, there's business
Correct.
administration teaches you nothing
Right.
that's actually useful. So I do think that it's a matter of trade-offs.
Mhm.
College is very expensive in what it costs, but it also takes away the 4 most pivotal years of your life where you have energy that you will later realize you will never have again.
Sure.
And where could you channel that energy in a way to make you what you want to become? And a
Mhm.
lot of colleges, I'm telling you, 80% of it's hanging out, which can be fun, but like hanging out, it means it's like standing still completely,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and I mean it's fun. Parts of it can be fun. I understand that. And
Sure.
but you still have plenty of fun. There's ways to find fun.
Sure.
You don't have to pay for fun. So I think on that respects, like the cost benefit, it's really tough to say that college is fits the bill. I think just in that regard alone, two other aspects of college. I think does it actually prepare you for life, for real life? I think that it fails in that regard. It doesn't mean you won't be prepared for life, but college itself isn't doing that for you. And this is showed by like people who some of you guys might be millennials. I mean, millennials invented this term adulting,
Yeah. Yeah.
adulting. Now, there's something behind this term. Like it's because they were allowed through all their life, they were allowed to not adult.
Right.
That they actually came up with a term for it when they were out, and they're like, okay, I guess when I have to get up every day and go to work, this is adulting, you know?
Right.
I mean, no, this is you. There are people who lived like adults who are 13 years old in the past. I mean, it's insane that we actually defer this until people are 22 years old. It's
That's
insane.
right. That's
So it
right.
doesn't prepare them for the future in that way. And finally, the last thing is that there's a it's risky going to college in that it is a toxic environment fundamentally, and you guys are probably well aware of that. I mean, the Charlie Kirk assassination kind of highlights some of that. But I think in recognizing the effect that the people you're around has on your own wants,
Yeah.
and then now you're in this artificial environment created in colleges, and realizing that's going to heavily influence you, whether you fight against the tide or not, it's going to shape you in some way or another. And I don't think that shaping is on the whole positive.
Yeah. Well, well said.
So like if I wanted to go into like a computer science or cybersecurity industry, would you recommend like me go to college or find like a way to get into that industry somewhere somehow else?
It's a good question. There was an article that was in the New York Times about 3 weeks ago that I shared with Max, and in it was highlighting two computer science uh, grads who were unable to find work. One who applied to over 5,000 jobs, and he had 13 interviews and no offers from all of it. A recent grad, and a lot of this is because of number one, computer science doesn't generally do a good job of actually preparing people for the work that they're doing on the job. And this is not a new thing. This is an old thing.
Sure.
There's a friend of mine, James Altucher. I was on his podcast, I guess a month ago, and he's a very smart man. But he went to school. I mean, one of the best schools you could possibly go to for computer science. He went to grad school for computer science, and he says in this podcast, as soon as he started on the job, he was immediately sent to remedial training because he was not up to the job. Now, this is
Yep.
going to the best school for computer science and the best graduate school for computer science. Immediately had to go to remedial training. So they fail in that regard. There are online courses for computer science and cybersecurity in particular that you can take. And I think knowing how to do the work does not require you to the 4 year degree. If you know, even the big tech companies have removed from many roles this requirement that people have a college degree because they recognize that number one, remedial training is required, and number two, they miss out on some highly talented people who don't have a piece of paper.
That's right.
So I don't think it's necessary for you if you're interested in that field.
Yeah. It's
So like would there be a sorry
don't be sorry.
um
It's okay, don't worry.
Like so, like so, yeah, 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 yeah. Um,
What are you trying to ask?
I'm losing my train of thought because of
That's
something in
okay.
the background.
Okay.
To
So I think the point of what what we're talking about here is there is college is often framed as a binary. Yes, it makes sense for almost everybody unless you're going to go into the trades or something of that nature, right? Like there is almost a binary like let's just have an underlying assumption that most people could or should go to college. The reality is it's not that simple of a thing anymore. And so there are some deeper questions that have to be asked. I love the word that Mr. Smith uses. It's a word that we use often here. And we're talking about intentionality. And it sounds good, and everybody goes, yeah, of course, I want to be intentional. But intentionality means you're also willing to question common assumptions, right? We did an outline. I don't think you were there on this, James, but a couple of weeks ago, we took a look at some things that Charlie did very, very well. Talking about Charlie Kirk after everything that happened. One of the things that he did was he pointed out the ability to question just underlying assumptions of a statement or of a culture. This is one of those instances. Is there a way to learn what you want to learn for free? Is there a way you can learn it without having to go pay an exorbitant amount of money to take all of these other classes too? And you can learn this for free. Is there a way you can get to and be able to prove your competence in these areas where you can go to an organization and go, look, not only should I get this job, let me prove to you why I'm competent in this, how I'm competent in this. And another thing we have to think through now, is this a position that eventually, maybe sooner rather than later, also gets eliminated through other advancements? I had a young lady that we spoke to not too long ago who went, man, I did all the things right. I went to the right college. I got my job on Wall Street. She's 24 years old. She goes, I was just notified that in 6 months, half of my position is being eliminated because AI is taking over the analytics portion of my job. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Right. And so there's just so much more thought. So that's why there's not a binary. Yes, you should go to college, James. No, you should not. There's so much more to that conversation. I think that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of nuance to that. Does
Yeah,
that does that make sense?
yeah, and let me say that I'm going to put in the chat two places, two courses. Harvard has their entire computer science
It's all there.
program online for free.
Correct.
You get to, you get Harvard's, so it's in one of those links. And the other one is for cybersecurity. It's basically the premier software company that makes the premier cybersecurity software has a course to teach you for free
Yeah.
how to become a
like,
cybersecurity professional. So there's so much of this stuff out there.
are you talking about Cisco?
No, it's not Cisco. It's a weird name. It's called Port Swigger is what it's called actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there any way to get a degree without going to college?
You don't get the
You don't get the piece of
degree,
paper.
but the degree is a piece of paper that is supposed to signify a certain thing. Your ability to actually be competent in that can exist independent of having a piece of paper, right? That's part of the issue. And to what Mr. Smith was talking about earlier, I spoke to an old client of mine last night who works for a company called Lockheed Martin. They are very well known for hiring some of the best engineering students, the straight A Ivy League engineering students. And he was telling me what the company has been telling me for years. Man, they're not, they all got straight A's. They're all having to go through these remedial process. They don't actually know how to do this. They don't actually have the competence. So again, there's the get the degree game. There's the get the skills game. Theoretically, they're the same game. In reality, that's not always the case, and there's a widening gap there. So it'll be an interesting conversation to continue to go down. I'm going to get to Mr. Mraz, but I like the question, Mr. Schott. It's a good question.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
James.
Yes, sir. Yeah, really good. Mr. Mraz.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to jump in on that conversation for a second, being because I used to be an IT recruiter, and used to search for developers, and most of what I recruited for was startups, and actually the degree wasn't a requirement ever. What we would actually look at was we would go to their uh, what's it called, Hubstack,
Or GitHub, yeah, or something, right?
hubs in the hub stacks, and look at what code they had actually done. And so for people trying to get in it, people who would go to hackathons, which all the schools put them on, you don't even have to be in the school to go to these hackathons, and you're going to have these projects that you built that actually show you can do something, because that's what the companies are most worried about, is can you actually do something, right? And the school does not help you with that. And funny enough, I went to college for a STEM degree, having an engineering degree, and didn't use it at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very common story.
It is a common story.
Did get a lot of other experience through the fraternity and leadership, running the intramural program, these other organizations, but it wasn't the actual classes where it was like that learning to adult situation, of running these other organizations had nothing to do with the school. Well, I mean, at the school, but that just happened to be the spot for them.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. So totally agree that it's not necessary, but there are good things. So
Sure.
you gotta look at it for you.
Gotta have that conversation. No, it's good, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, and that's, again, the conversation of even those good things that came out of running intramurals and running and all those things. Yes, absolutely. Give you some great experience. And can you mimic something like that outside of that, and often for free? That's, again, so it's never a binary, just yes, no sort of deal. So
yeah, it was more of, I made the most of what I could, but it wasn't the free option, but I made what I could out of it.
totally.
Yep.
And I know we're coming to the end because I want to make sure we honor time on here for you too. But one of the things you said, I said, man, we got these 16, got these cycles, could have picked another 16. And that's the beauty of life, is that we could have picked another 16 and had those experiences and pulled everything out and had that deep reflection around those things. And, but with the way that it is developed in your mind's eye, and again, looking at it from a father to son point of view, you got a young man who finishes the 16 cycles, comes out, debt free, comes out skilled, comes out with a confidence that has been earned related to competence. One of the things that you will inherently get from other people, so I'm going to give it to you now too, is, oh, well, then what? Right? Like, what is the next frontier? Like, what is life? Because again, the assumption is, oh, we get the degree, and then we all know what happens. Life works out well. You don't get the degree. We all know what happens. You go to prison, right? Like, that's how it's framed, which is BS. But what's after the frontier? After the preparation? What does that look like?
Well, I have to say it is literally unimaginable, but I'll say that the goal that people imagine you get from college is that you become economically self-sufficient. Like that's kind of the barometer that things are measured by.
Yep.
Now, I set aside some money for Max to do this. Unlike me, he didn't grow up poor, right? So I set aside some money, actually an irresponsibly small amount of money, knowing that I could easily, the gift tax limit, it should have been more, a lot more. But it was enough for basically 1 year at a prestigious university is what it would have paid for him. But he has more money today than he did when he started.
Yeah.
So he is already economically self-sufficient. I mean, like he's somehow earning enough money as he goes through the program that he's able to stay ahead and not have to like dip into that money that I set aside for him. So I expect that he will be much better at that in 2 years from now, because as the skills have stacked up and his ability to earn money continues to increase and new opportunities get thrown his way, I think that that will be a non-factor. And so beyond that, what will he do? I have no idea. I literally can't imagine it. And I'll tell you what, my whole life, if I would have told you what I would be like, if I would have at any point in my life before 30 forecast my life, I would have dramatically understated all of it.
Correct.
Because I didn't even realize what was possible.
Correct.
So, it's a bad idea to even put a limit on that. It's like, I want just this, because like you don't even know. I mean, you don't even
Correct.
know what you could do.
That's right. And we don't know how the world is going to go. We don't know what we are capable of. I take a look at it from, again, all of the, even just the grown men here that are live with us. We can give our best guess of what the next 10 years looks like, 15, 20 for us. Even knowing some of the competencies that we have, we can just give our best guess. But even that, we don't know where everything is going to go. How arrogant do we have to be to assume we can lay this all out for our young man or our
It's
daughter?
wild. It's wild that it's even a priority. And this is why pursuing the man you want to become should be the anchor, should be the fundamental key driving force, because that is a vision that you can pursue and is a worthwhile pursuit regardless of what happens.
Yes, sir. Correct. Beautiful. Ah, beautifully said. Again, I want to honor the time because I know we're coming up on the hour. I will say this. So, there's a couple of things that we want to do internally. I want to make sure everybody within our organization knows, about this book. Externally, I want to help get it into the hands of whoever we can help get it into. And then, we have some things on the horizon as far as our organization is concerned, that I'd love to just continue the conversation with you about
Absolutely.
you, and however we can help, because I appreciate the way you are leading with this so much, man, and I want to continue that conversation. Um, if you're okay with it, we do want to
Yeah.
release this as a podcast too. What would you have me point listeners to? Is it the book? Is there something else you would have them go to as well? Where do you want me to
Yeah.
direct the audience?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a few things that are options. Number one, the book on Amazon.
Yeah,
And for those of you who haven't read it, I'd encourage you just to start reading it. And if it doesn't speak to you in the first two chapters, you'll know it's not for you. But it's an easy read. It's meant to be read easily, and 80% of the book is about doing, actually. So,
yeah,
it's not like the burden that books often are, to consume. I think it should go down quite easy for you. But Amazon is the place to get that. We have a website set up for the preparation at thepreparation.com. The idea is there ultimately is that we can, as people do what Max has been doing, that we can connect them there. Because
yeah,
one of the things we do is we have them publish, weekly, like what they're actually getting done.
yeah.
And by doing that publicly, it actually the accountability factor is awesome, and you actually end up finding people that support you in doing it, and opportunities pop up, and we want to connect those people there. So there's that, and then Maxim if you want to see what Maxim's been doing, it's maximsmith.com, and it's a good example. He represents it really well. I mean, he's
Does.
far exceeded any possible expectation I could have had, honestly, for him. He's doing fantastic. So.
Yeah,
And then I do stuff if you're interested in finance and economic stuff, I have a crisisinvesting.com is where we publish all the things we do, the conversations I have with Doug on a regular basis. I just got off one with him today. We published that. And, we talk about economics and finance there primarily, though.
beautiful, beautiful. We'll make sure we put all of that in there. Matt, I very much aligned. So I understand there is an inherent bias with what we are building, and how aligned we are on this, and obviously some mutual friends. And so I understand that I'm going to be biased in this, but man, I think the work is wildly important. It's a conversation I want to continue to have with more and more people. So thank you for putting it out there, not just doing it, but putting it out to help serve other people with it too.
Yeah, thank you. I do believe it's the most important thing I've done so far. We'll see how it goes in terms of if it really has the effect on people. I hope it does. But also, I think it seems like you're doing really great things. So if there's anything we can do to support what you're doing, please let us know, because having all these men here is and focused on becoming virtuous and seeing what's possible. I didn't even know there was anyone out there doing this, frankly.
Oh, we need it. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think there is a lot of that. I think there are a lot of conversations to come. I would love to connect. I think there's conversations worth having. So
Cool.
I'm gonna bring these guys through a debrief here a little bit. I actually go through till about 9 p.m. tonight, but this weekend or early next week, I'll touch base with you again, and would love to
Let's
figure out this
connect.
more too. Yeah,
Yeah, awesome.
absolutely.
Well,
Beautiful.
thank you guys. I appreciate the opportunity. It was good talking to you all. I
Honor
hope
is
you enjoyed it.
absolutely ours,
Thank
gentlemen.
you, sir.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank
Thank you
you.
guys. Take care.
Thank you, sir.